Okay, we'll bring this regular council meeting to order for December the 9th. It's 3 p.m. and I'd ask Councillor Bates to please read the land acknowledgement.
The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kaneipakani and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis and Inuit, who have lived on and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. And 2.1, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Could I please have someone make a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I will make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. And then 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes for November 25th. When somebody's ready, a motion to accept those, please. Councillor Dunham, or Bates, I'm sorry.
I'll move.
I saw your finger.
I'll move the regular council meeting minutes for adoption.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then the agenda and priorities meeting of December the 2nd. Councillor Dunham.
Barclay will move those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Any changes? No? All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. So we'll move into 4.1 with Manager Shaw, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Koralyn Lemmon. When we were before you in an earlier meeting with an announcement of development officers, Koralyn unfortunately was not available. Some of you have already met her through MPC, but we wanted to do a formal acknowledgement and introduction to you so that you can put a face to the name.
Thank
She
you,
brings
Manager Shaw.
a wealth of experience to us from Summer Villages, as well as the city of Red Deer.
Okay, well, thank you. On behalf of Council, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Okay. How long have you been here now, Koralyn?
Just about a month.
1 month, 4 hours, 14 minutes. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, we'll move into 4.2 with the CAO report.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. Hello, Council. The report is there for your review and for any questions. I just wanted to highlight the very first part of the report, and really depends on the nature of today's meeting and if there's any actions you feel necessary to advance into a December 23rd regular meeting. If you feel it's appropriate, I'd like to circle back with you at the end of the meeting to ask you the question if you wish to proceed with that December 23rd meeting, and if not, we would then proceed with that public notice.
All right, thank you, CEO Becker. Does anybody have any questions? If not, I'll please have a motion to accept the CAO report. Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. I would move that Council approve the CAO report dated December 9th, 2024 as information.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move into our council action control. CEO Becker.
Won't take me long. Just to highlight Varma public participation. We're expecting to align Varma with council in the new year, probably towards the end of January, as well as in conversation with TELUS, just working on that connection too. So that should be coming to you probably in the new year also.
All right, great. Thank you. We'll have a motion, please, to accept the council action control as presented. Councillor Hystad.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move into 4.4, and we'll ask Manager Leith to come up and tell us all about the new bylaw.
Your Worship, Council, as a follow-up to AMP direction on November 18th, the report in front of you contains a draft fire services bylaw and a rates and fees schedule to support the amendments to the current fire service bylaw. for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Manager Leith on the bylaw? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I went through it quite a bit. The one thing that struck me with the all the way down to the fines if you violated, and specifically there were 2 or 3 rather serious ones that I wondered that couldn't even be higher on the second offense, and the ones that caught my eye were operating or attaching to a hydrant. That seems to be fairly serious in my mind. Certainly impersonating a fire official, and it's almost like we cap them. And quite a few of the minor offenses were doubled for the second offense. I wouldn't be against doubling a couple of those. I don't think it's a serious offense to paint a fire hydrant, but it's serious enough for these fines. But I would consider higher fines for the impersonating and perhaps operating stuff that you shouldn't touch, especially if it's a second offense. That's just my input.
Yeah, Your Worship, through to Councillor Bates, our rates the fines section, similar to those of other municipalities, are in line with those. Certainly, yeah, the fire hydrant piece can cause, as I'm sure Director Kennedy will say, is there's potential for additional damage in the winter period if we're not aware somebody's using our fire hydrants.
No, I totally understand why you don't want it. I'm just suggesting I don't see a reason why not to have a bigger fine if someone does it a second time. That's just, and I can't imagine anybody impersonating a fire official, but if they did.
Did you want to suggest something, Councillor Bates, as
Well,
far as?
no, I just threw it out.
fine?
If no one else, if we're good, that's.
Well, no, I agree with you. I'm just wondering what you're thinking, like double what the first offense is, or?
Well, it kind of seems to be the theme with some of the minors. And maybe we separate the painting of fire hydrant as a double. I don't think you need to on that one, because I doubt anybody would do it the second time. But impersonating and tampering with equipment, those two hit me as being fairly serious.
Councillor Maceros?
Thank you. I'll weigh in just with another item, and that is the false alarm. It seems quite lenient to allow 3 times in 1 calendar year. I don't know if that is something that we would want to look at as well.
Again, Your Worship, through to Councillor Macero. We can certainly take it away and look at that, but again, we appear to be fairly consistent with other municipalities. And certainly false alarms, the 3 within a 12-month period. It's not something we've easily been able to track at this point in time. We've only just taken control of a new record management system, which will allow us to track that other than manually. It will automatically give us indication when we have 3 alarms at any one premises. So it's something obviously we're going to work on. At this point in time, in my 8 years here, we've not levied a charge against somebody for false alarms for that very reason. And again, if you wish us to take this away and revise it, then some direction would be required.
You did come back to us, didn't you, Manager Leith, with the cost of going out to an alarm for your department?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Macero, I haven't actually come back with a fixed figure, but roughly it's the cost of potentially 9 fire department members. Initial call is paid at 3 hours at an average of $25 per person. So
Okay,
that's
I
the
would,
approximate cost.
do I make a motion, Mayor Barkley? Or, no? Okay.
We'll keep going through this, and then we can always make a motion to send it back. But so that the third offense, they are getting fined $300 in the same calendar year. So would you say, Manager Leith, off the top of your head, like would there be many that would be over 2? Like you said, Council last time you were here, that there's some frequent flyers that,
Yeah, and those frequent flyers, the advice to those people is to turn around and have their equipment placed appropriately, and this is to drive them to do that. The frequent flyers, some of our commercial potentially could be some of that. But certainly our residentials, we encourage people to engage with alarm companies to turn around and monitor them for security and for fire. But we also wish them to take control of that. So in the event of a cooking incident or inappropriately placed equipment is to fix those issues.
okay, thank you. Councillor Hystad?
Thanks, Your Worship. To Manager Leith. My comment, and I could agree with Councillor Bates with some of the couple changes that he's looking at, but I was looking as following suit from what's out there in the public. And so is there any area, that, like you've given us your information as is there anywhere else that we could increase those fines, like similar to what Councillor Bates is mentioning? But I know, that's how I was looking at, the presentation today. It's difficult to find people as well that may not pay those fees, right, or fines. And I think that would be half the battle that you and your team are facing as well. Am I correct?
So in respect to fines and penalties, if we take that aside from Schedule A, which was to go on to the rates and fees, is the fines and penalties could be written on a bylaw ticket as such, and then they would be written onto a provincial ticket. So ultimately that individual would have to pay that ticket. So if it gets written onto a provincial ticket, if they fail to pay the bylaw ticket, they would then, when they go to registries to renew their vehicle or driver's license, would have to pay that fine at some point. And in respect of those rates and fees on that schedule would be a pursuance of the individual or registered owner for a bill outstanding to the town of Innisfil.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Winton?
Thanks, Mayor Barkley, through to Manager Leith. I guess I am agreeing with my colleagues. I guess my feeling about, a first penalty and a second penalty is, the first penalty is, yeah, you've done something wrong and here's your, the second one needs to be an absolute deterrent for it to ever happen again. And I appreciate that false alarms are a different kettle of fish because, yeah, sometimes the placement of a fire alarm in someone's house is kind of out of their control and they have to work with a third party or a landlord or whatever to get it changed. But when it's something deliberate, like hindering the operation of a fire hydrant or impersonating a fire department member, I think the second penalty should actually be more of a deterrent, and I would support seeing those two increased for sure. Thanks.
And Councillor Dunham?
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Echoing what my fellow council members have said, and I think the things that stood out for me were the fire ones. The fact that some of them are 500 to 1,000, other are less than that. For me, the effect of a large fire or the probability of a large fire happening carries such a heavy financial burden for replacement that I would like to see, I guess, those increased too. And I mean, I always personally defer to your expertise in the research that you've done going out to the other communities to find what we should be doing. But, those are ones that stood out for me that potentially, yeah, I would like to see those aligned with each other.
And Manager Leith, can you please just remind us, or me anyway, the charge when you go out to fight a fire, and when you came before, that would be a bill that is sent to an insurance company, correct?
The bill would initially be sent to the individual who would then forward it onto their insurance company.
Yep.
The majority of household insurance policies cover an emergency response for fire, flood, etc.
And if there is no insurance? Then it
If
would
there's
just-
no insurance, then the registered owner would be liable for that bill. There is an appeal process if they were to choose to appeal that.
And
that fee.
I think it says in here that you could put a lien on the property if it's unpaid, or,
That's correct, yeah.
yeah, okay. Okay,
Or be reverted back under 253, is it, under the Municipal Government Act onto the tax roll.
taxes, okay, no, thank you. Okay, so do we want to ask this to go back and come back another day where the fines have been increased? Or do you just want to make a motion where could we just make a motion and have those fines increased as per Councillor Bates's discussion?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, either way, one is you can put it back to administration, or you can, if you work through those numbers, it'd be almost encouraged if you could do that, just give some idea, and then adopt the bylaws as amended.
Okay, sure. So Councillor Bates, did you want to make a motion to make a change? And
Sure, I guess. Yeah, I didn't put numbers down. I think, and I'm looking for help, I guess, the connection to a hydrant, I think, should be raised. I don't know how much. What was it here? Just a second. I'd almost suggest that those go 500 and 1,000. And the interfering or impersonating, to me, that's the second one. It should be double the first one. I think the first one's pretty a wake-up call. I would double those two. I don't think I would do anything with painting a hydrant. I think that's okay.
so one.
Beyond that, I'm okay.
So one representing themselves as a fire department member, you want that doubled, the first one?
I
From
think so.
750 to 1,500?
I think so.
And then 1,500 to 2,000, or?
What? Oh, well, if there's a third offense, put them in jail.
No, but the first offense you want doubled from
No,
what it
no,
is? or-
I would double the first offense to be the second offense, is where I was leaning, but
Okay, so
we could
1,500 on
debate
the
that all
second.
day,
No,
like, I
okay.
mean,
No, just so we understand, so.
yeah, I would double the first offense for the second offense.
Okay, so first is 750, second is 1,500.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and then the fire hydrant, we're going from
I'd-
500 to 1,000
And,
and 1,000.
or you can make that 1,500 the second
Well,
time.
It's your motion, I'll let you decide.
How about 1,750, or 750 and 1,500 again?
Okay. Okay,
Messing with the fire hydrant. Other than painting, I think I'd
Yeah.
leave it, because I think people have done that in an innocent fashion, but when you're starting to open it up, and if you, as was mentioned, if you do that in the winter and freeze it, it could be huge.
okay, so are we clear on those two motions? Okay,
And yeah, I would leave we can always change it in the future. This is our first time around. I would leave the third offense on the
Okay.
alarms.
okay, so we're just changing the two. Did you get that, Juanita? Okay, okay. Any further discussion about those two? No, all in favor? All right, and then Councillor Maceras, did you want to change the false alarm?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. No, I think after listening to Manager Leith and my council colleagues, I'll just retract that.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, no, sounds good. Okay, so then we have three motions, so I guess we're going to have the first motion, the council approves the amended fire services bylaw 1728-2024. Councillor Wing.
Yes, Mayor Barkley, I would move that council approve giving first reading to the amended fire services bylaw 1728-2024.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. And I'll have somebody please give second reading. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I'll move second reading of Fire Services Bylaw 1728-2024.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. And I'll have somebody please that we give consideration to third reading. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barkley, I move that we give consideration to third reading of bylaw 1728-2024.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, and then we'll have somebody please give third and final reading. Councillor Maceras.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'd like to make that motion to give third and final reading to bylaw 1728-2024.
Great, okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move into 4.5 with CAO Becker, please.
Mayor Barkley. So before you, council, is a letter or information from the Red Deer Polytechnic asking council to consider providing a letter of support written to the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, just in regards to recent changes from the federal government's on the international student program. So the information provided to you, council, indicates that has significant impacts on institutions with these changes, and RDP is asking council to provide a letter to the minister just in regarding the impacts that these changes have had or will have on them. The Red Deer Polytechnic did provide additional information, not part of your package, just to provide some references to kind of wording to be placed in the letter, and just so to formalize, if you're interested, provide a letter of support to RDP.
All right, thank you. Can I please have a motion to that respect? Councillor Maceras.
Thank you. I'd like to move that council provides a Red Deer Polytechnic letter of support to the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, I do. I just, I find, you had a chuckle. No, I do, because I just found, you know, I don't know, I'm not 100%. I see this, we have our own lanes as, you know, municipalities, and I look at this and I could, you know, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about the shortfall. Basically, it comes down to the shortfall in their budget. That's how I'm reading it, as well as some of the issues that they will not be able to have international students attend. But then I think of the big picture of our own, you know, our provincial government, or in our, or I'll just say within our post-secondary system, who's the system's been always underfunded for probably the last 25 years, right? And I look at that big picture and I go, well, you know, really, I think there's certain lanes that we should be in as municipal councillors, and I don't know if this is our lane. It's like me saying that maybe we should have a letter to, you know, the federal government about Cup W strike right now. Like, I think there's certain lanes to keep aligned to, and I look at young people in our own province that are struggling to even go to school or being able to afford school themselves. So I don't know if this is our lane. That's where I'm coming from, and I just wanted to have a full debate on this and see if this is our avenue or our laneway.
Yeah, sure. So
Thanks.
just to give you some background where this came from, so we were invited, Central Alberta mayors were invited to a roundtable at RDP with Board of Governors, and a question came up from an elected official about the impact of the change in immigration from the federal government and provincial. And so a discussion came out of that, and from that group, it was put forward, the question was, how can we help support you? And really there was a lot of inequity in programs, so there may be a program at Red Deer Polytechnic that is not eligible, but that very same program at a university is eligible. And so there's a lot of discrepancy going on because it's a polytechnic. And of course, I believe their target was to, at some point, have 25% students as international students. As we all know, they pay no more, so it's a budget item as well. We can see 8 million drop in revenue for them, so it's fairly significant. But I think what we heard from Stuart Cullen, the president that day, was really the programs at RDP are such that they're very specific and, of course, focused on trades, which are so badly needed, and healthcare, which is so badly needed. So they just felt that they weren't being treated the same as other post-secondary institutions, like colleges and polytechnics are not being treated the same as universities. So the nursing program at RDP is you get X, the nursing program at a university, no change. So that's kind of where this came from, and the reach out to ask. And I know this is going to other councils as well. So Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I somewhat agree. I agree with my colleague, the concern. I made myself a couple of notes. I actually agree with the Red Deer Polytechnic's presentation that this is probably a flawed policy. And I do agree, I think, with, this is personal though, that's what I think. I agree with the fact it's flawed. I agree with the government's probably concentrating too much on the wrong section, but I question my own purview as to speak for the entire town of Innisfail as to how this should be steered, because it's part of a bigger policy that we're not seeing the other side of. I don't know how that impacts immigration in general, or other quotas or whatever else the federal government might have. There's probably a tie to their housing policy. And I guess to use Councillor Heisted's words, I'm not sure that when I say it's in our purview, I'm questioning whether or not it's in our lane. And if I could get my fellow councillors to convince me it's in our lane, I generally agree with what they're saying. And I did hear this morning, literally on the news, but it was Simon Fraser University who was, this was almost a similar, they were looking at the same thing. Their funding, and so I don't know the differences between the Polytechnic and Simon Fraser University, but they were definitely on the same page. It just seems, I don't know what we might have in this town for people who have experience with Red Deer Polytechnic that might see this working in their favor. I have no idea. I don't feel I have enough
Yeah,
information.
like I said, it wasn't RDP asking us, it was the other way around. Somebody posed a question about how it's impacting them, and so a discussion came out of it, and then the question was asked, how can we support or advocate? And of course, I would say it goes back to industry needing labor and labor shortages, and we know what RDP is all about and the programs that they offer. So we look at healthcare, we look at trades, two areas with massive shortages, and now this is put on them as well. So that's what came out of the morning we spent with them. So, Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I actually do think that there is a direct impact on our community that we represent, as well as all of the communities in Central Alberta, relative to Red Deer Polytechnic, and that is the programs that they're talking about here are all fairly expensive programs to operate. And yes, the recovery of revenue from bringing in international students is of significant impact and importance for their budgets because they're not properly funded by the province. And the money that they will be that the shortfall will actually be transferred over to tuition increases for students from throughout the region that the institution serves from the majority perspective. So, you know, the nursing program won't go away. The cost of going to it will increase, and it will be the same with trades. Trades programming is getting to be more and more expensive all the time, and will continue because the costs that have to be borne by, the capital costs that have to be borne by the institution to ensure that the equipment that they're using for training, they bear that. So I do support this. I think that, I mean, I've said for many years that I thought there needed to be more of a federal plan around how we educate and train our community members and our citizens, and I think that our institutions have been backed into a corner, and that's why we've seen the growth in international training. It doesn't cost us, it costs us as much to go to other places, other countries to be trained as well. So I do feel that we should be asking the federal government to reconsider, because it will impact the learners in Innisfail, I believe, in a very direct manner.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, like the 19 programs that are being cut, I'm not sure that they would necessarily fill up with Canadian students. They just wouldn't have spots available. They can't increase those programs without money to run them. So, Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. It's interesting because before the point that Councillor Heisted brought up, I hadn't taken that in consideration. I actually have a family member who is a program manager for one of the local or area colleges, and over the last several months listening to their feedback on this, and they were previously at a post-secondary institution in Calgary, and their opinion of this that they've imparted on to me is that it's going to directly affect that bottom line and their ability to bring those programs forward. So that was, beyond this document, that's what I was looking at as having heard firsthand from somebody who actually flies to other countries to try and bring these students into the area, and the effect that this is going to have on this other institution it's fundamentally going to change things if this happens. So I support it, but it is an interesting question whether or not this is in our purview. But as Councillor Wing pointed out, it does have a direct correlation to people in our area, and that's the way that I'm looking at it as, or the lens I'm looking at it through.
All right. Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I don't want to imply that I don't support it and/or that I see the foreign students taking spots. That's not at all what I think. I do support it, personally, and I do feel it's probably the Polytechnic and universities have much more accountability with all of the immigration type issues that they deal with. They have full accountability. They have excellent record keeping, and we might benefit greatly from some of the students after they graduate. I just wanted to make sure that we felt comfortable advocating on behalf of the town, and that was all I was hearing. Thank you.
No, thank you. And that one of the conversations we had was about all of us, like putting our signatures on one letter, but that's difficult to do, so I think kind of chose to do it individually as individual municipalities if people want. But anyway, we do have a motion that's been put forward. Sorry, Councillor Heisted.
Yeah, Your Worship, I was just going to ask you, with the advocacy conversation with the college, did it come up on some of the advocacy that we may need from the post-secondaries, with the province as well, like our asks? Did that come up in that conversation? I'm curious because of that relationship building that day. Because
Sorry,
how I
I'm
see
not
this,
sure what you're getting at, sorry.
I think when was it a Cape event that you were at? No,
It was RDP invited Central Alberta
mayors. Okay.
and the Red Deer County Council and City of Red Deer Council was there as
No,
well.
Because I think this discussion is very valid. Like if we're going to support it, right, and this is a revenue, they're going to be affected by this legislation itself and the changes of international students coming to our country. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this was a discussion about the issues that they may have in post-secondary for everybody, or the funding itself, or was it just solely this subject itself? And then my question, what I was getting at was when the mayors were asking, was there any advocacy that you guys were asking from RDP from in the next couple of years that we could, get from them for just some of the issues that we have provincially?
No, this part of the conversation was just focused on this.
Okay.
We went through their strat plan and some other things, and then this conversation came up. And it was brought up by a councillor from Red Deer, how it was impacting the college or the Polytechnic, or how it could impact, and that's how the conversation was started. So,
No, and I
think it was really around the inequities. So like I said, the difference between the impact to a university compared to a college or a polytechnic, they're totally different, and why when it's the same program.
Yeah.
So Polytechnic is being penalized where the university is not. And yet you think of the people going to Red Deer Polytechnic and the need we have in things like healthcare, the need we have in trades, the workforce strategy or the workforce shortages that we have, and those are the very people that we need, and yet they're being cut, those programs. Or
Yeah.
certain parts of those programs, so.
No, I appreciate the discussion, Your Worship, and I'll support this with moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you for the comments. Councillor Maceros?
Yeah, I appreciate the debate as well, and I thought you brought up a good point, Councillor Heisted. The part that stuck out to me on this letter was the fact that decisions are being made about regional labor markets from a federal government, and regional labor markets are so individual and unique. And that's the part of this that, I mean, aside from all my other convictions and values, I would say we should support based on that alone. Oh, and a question to Mayor Barkley. Are any other colleges or polytechnics writing letters like this to IRCC?
Yeah, I don't know. We just focused on Red Deer, so I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Bates?
So with the dialogue, I'm prepared to support the motion. I did mention that I heard certainly Simon Fraser's going to be writing, if they're not advocating with everything they have. And our reputation, and it's already been damaged. Just so you know, my daughter-in-law works in Singapore, and her job is guidance counselor to the world. And she says she has no students right now that are trying to set themselves up to come to Canada because they have to do that a year in advance. And I'm willing to support the motion.
Okay, so we do have a motion. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, and we will move on to 5.1 and the Southwest Solar Farm.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. So since our last update back in July, we did complete the independent assessor, their report in regards to Section 95, subsection 10, as per the AUC application. On November 20th, the town did receive a letter from the minister concluding that the town is in accordance with the requirements set out by Section 95, subsection 10. Since then, administration has also engaged EDC Associated to complete a fundamental-based forecast for the project, as there has been a significant drop in the current and forecasted pool price for electricity-generated market. Some of the key points from the report are, after trending at an all-time high between 2021 and 2023, Alberta power prices are now forecasted to soften as the market adapts to two new factors. Firstly, a materially altered supply-demand balance from the substantial amount of new low marginal cost capacity, both thermal and renewable, that has already been connected to the grid or is expected to connect within the next 2 years. Secondly, a provincial government that has expressly stated power prices must experience a material and sustained drop in order to provide consumers with lower utility bills. Over the forecast period, solar discounts to the pool price is expected to maintain for two main reasons. First, there is a substantial amount of installed utility scale capacity on the system, with additional installations expected over the next 2 years, driven by the recently executed PPAs. Beyond this capacity, in spite of no specific policy enabling initiatives, DER capacity is expected to continue to ramp up as its growth is influenced by factors independent of electricity market dynamics, such as home builders adding solar panels to the new builds in order to increase their profit margin. Secondly, the behavior of dispatchable thermal power plants. These assets are expected to dispatch down to off during low-priced hours, then become significantly more aggressive during periods of tighter supply cushion in order to ensure adequate gross operating margins and capital recovery, with wind and solar resources having low output during these hours and being a cause of their tighter supply conditions. So based on those above mentioned, the results of the report, expected rate of return for the project has now changed from the 6 to 7 year projection to an 18 to 20 year projection. Due to the amount of time and cost spent on the project so far, it is administration's recommendation to finalize the AUC application with extension to the in-service schedule. This will give time to monitor the market and investigate other possible opportunities to utilize this type of project. If the decision is to not proceed with finalizing the application, all reports and studies completed to date will likely need to be completed again before another application can be submitted. Cost to date on the project is just over $149,000, with the additional consulting fees to complete the project or the application estimated at $15,000. These funds would come from the general cap reserve as projected before. So it is our recommendation to proceed with finalizing the project. So, take any questions?
Okay, thank you, Director Kennedy. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that council directs administration to finalize the submission to AUC for the Southwest Industrial Solar Farm project, estimated cost of $15,000 coming from general capital reserve.
Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Bates.
Looking down and hit the button. Well, obviously, it's discouraging to get this news, and especially after we've invested as much as we have. Certainly would have hoped somebody would have found that earlier, but and I'm not looking at us, I'm looking at the people we were dealing with. But I guess the question I have, what does it mean to extend in-service schedule as part of this? We're gonna move that we're gonna proceed with getting the application, and what does extend in-service schedule mean?
Yep, Councillor Bates, so in the application, they are requesting a in-service date. So what we would do is extend that, you're allowed to extend that up to a year. So in the application, we would extend it so that it would be efficient or proposed construction schedule for the following year. But then you also have the option to, once the application's approved, to extend that as well. So it just means that during the application process, they are looking for construction schedules. So we would put that as far as possible, with then, if no more action, we would then look to extend again.
So can you keep extending? Like, so initially, we were gonna try and do this next year or the year after. So then if you extend it a year, it's the year after or the year after, but with the projection of the amount of months that it might be before this ever changes, is it realistic? How far can you extend it, I guess, is the question that keeps.
So right now, it's a one-year extension. So then it goes back to the AUC, they then determine if that's appropriate or not.
So then the other concern I have is literally Friday, there was news broke that some new criteria, and it's actually in the RMA's newsletter that we got. And one of the little jewels I picked out of there was they were planning to get anybody who's building one of these to post a bond for reclaim, and that would apply to current and future. So I guess where I'm going is I'm starting to wonder urgency. Perhaps we should consider tabling this, and the couple of things I would like to know is, A, are we going to have to post a bond for reclamation? Because that would certainly impact our decision even more delay if you're actually having to post a bond. And then find out specifically what is the maximum that we could extend, because I'm not seeing a good reason to spend $15,000 more if you're almost sure you're not going to do it, and I'm almost seeing that I'm almost not sure of doing it. And maybe the question would be too, if we did revive this in a couple of years, would any of our previous work be considered to be useful? Get those 3 questions answered. If we don't proceed with this for a month, does that make a big difference as to how it goes? Or does that give us our own 1-month extension? That,
So to Councilor Bates, so we do have, the project itself, the application right now is paused, was based on the receival of this to get the application moving again. So we do have some time, exactly the time. I'm sure we have to go back to AUC and find that out. In regards to extensions, it's a yearly extension based on their approval. So that, I can't give you what the maximum amount of extensions we can get. It is based on AUC's approval. And then in regards to the bond, yeah, that's part of this application, is we determine what that value is and move forward. That's part of that process. But that doesn't happen until the construction of the project commences as well, so.
So, Director Kennedy, I agree with Councillor Bates. I kind of like to see this tabled until your team has time to dig into new regulations that were announced on Friday. So some questions I have is we see a rate of return as in kind of projected in years. I assume that means that's when the project would be paid off, the 18 to 20, but I would like to know what would be an estimated return on investment if that solar farm lasted 35 years. And I know it's hard to project 35 years out, but there is some data in that report that's attached to this. I also would like to know, is there benefits to having that solar project in the industrial park for potential industry coming in? And would it be possible for somebody to, well, for lack of a better word, to be plugged into it? And I know there's regulations around that, I believe, where you cannot cross roads or something to access the power. So if that can be determined somehow. And then, yeah, I guess the other question I had was the same as Councillor Bates, like how long does, if we did move forward and we had an approval, then how long does that last? And how many more regulations are going to change? Because I don't think we can, put the fault to the people doing this work or us or whatever. It's just that so many things change. When we started this, everything changed a few months in, and now things keep changing, and there's still this uncertainty around this. And so I know $15,000, it's not much, but on the other hand, if there's no benefit to doing this ultimately, then what's the point? And maybe that's the end game. Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I would support tabling it. I think right now there's so many balls in the air relative to this particular sector and this initiative with the government and with industry. At some point in time, I'm sure the major corporations that are involved are going to have a conversation with their shareholders about what it means to have lower energy costs. And so if we can table it and just for a while, just sort of wait and I hate that wait and see thing, but we are hugely invested in this, but that doesn't mean necessarily that finishing it is in the best interest of the project or in the best interest of the community. So I would support tabling it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bates?
another thought occurred to me. So, I'd like to get a couple questions asked, like how long can the certificate last? Can you sell a solar farm after you've done all this? Like, what if we did get an industry come to town that said, we really want to have this little jewel over here feeding us, because that's part, yeah. And so some of those questions too. And yeah, if we could get, I don't know, probably take the government forever to tell you, but what is our obligation to post a bond? Because that financially puts another barrier in front of your payback, because you've got that money tied up. So I think we got to get some of that information. And so I wouldn't table it indefinitely, but maybe a month or two into next year, we would know some of this, or maybe not, but at least we'd have a chance. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think some certainty and maybe some advocacy around this topic, right? And, you know, where we started and where we are today and how much we have expended because of all the changes that we've had to adapt to. Councillor Heisting.
Yeah, I would agree with tabling it. I think we've been thrown a number of curveballs the last couple of years, so very well, you know, said Councillor Bates and Mayor Barkley on the direction. So I would support that tabling. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. Shall we defeat the motion? Or, well, I'm not going to tell anybody how to vote, but, or can we just
You can
withdraw?
Yeah, you can withdraw and
Yeah.
move to table.
Yeah, okay, so I'll have that motion withdrawn.
I'll make the motion to withdraw.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, and then we'll have a motion to please table. Councillor Bates?
Sure, I'll make the motion to table, and I don't know if you want the list of questions, but I think you probably got them.
He's got them.
And if you have any, but I think if we could get answers to those, we could untable it, in my opinion, if it gave us a good outlook that it was smart to finish it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of tabling? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, and we'll go to 6.1 with Director Vickers and the policing grant.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So we have before you our policing support grant for the 24-25 fiscal year. We are needing council to authorize the chief elected official to sign the policing support grant funding agreement. So through Alberta Public Safety and Emergency Services, it's continued its support for police services throughout the province. To facilitate this, the province has approved grant funding for the 24-25 fiscal year. Back in 2022, the Municipal Policing Assistance Grant and the Police Officer Grant were amalgamated into one form of police grant called the Policing Support Grant, so that's what we are doing now. The dollar amounts have not changed from those two amalgamated grants into this one. That was completed in order to simplify the administrative and financial processes attached to policing grants for both the ministry as well as all the municipalities through Alberta. The attached agreement is effective April 1st, 2024 and does expire on March 31st, 2025. It must be signed by the chief elected official and it will be returned immediately after signing. The approved purpose of the police support grant funds is to both offset the cost of officers, as well as to ensure the delivery of policing oversight, and implementation of policing initiatives and priorities, and the ability to support enhanced policing services in the town. So the town is eligible for a grant in the amount of $362,776. This amount has not changed since last year. It has been accounted for in our 2024 annual budget. The grant will not be released until this agreement is signed and returned.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. Could I please have a motion?
Mayor Barkley, I would move that council authorize the chief elected official to sign the policing support grant funding agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
And then just make one comment, that just to note the fact that there is no increase yet. Our own policing budget cost center does increase. So, you know, everything else goes up, but the funding does not. So just a comment.
It's kind of like Groundhog Day. Okay, all in favor? All right, carried, thank you. And we'll move on to 6.2 with Director Vickers and the general election bylaw.
Yeah, so we do have the 2025 election bylaw for council to review and approve. The proposed bylaw 1727-2024 outlines the regulations for conducting the 2025 general municipal election in the town of Innisfail, scheduled for October 20th, 2025. This bylaw is designated to ensure the election process complies with the Local Authorities Election Act and provides clarity for candidates, voters, and election officials. It incorporates updates to reflect legislative requirements and introduces procedural improvements to ensure an efficient, transparent, and well-managed election. The Municipal Affairs Statutes Amendment Act of 2024, which did come into effect on October 31st, introduced significant changes to Alberta's Local Authorities Election Act. Among those notable changes is the prohibition of automated vote counting systems, including electronic tabulators for use in municipal elections. As everyone here is aware, Innisfil has been using these electronic vote tabulators for many elections in the past. This amendment now mandates that all voting and ballot counting processes be conducted exclusively using paper ballots. So that is ensuring a manual approach to election procedures in accordance with the revised legislation. So some of the key provisions inside the election bylaw include the nomination process. So nominations do open on January 1st of 2025 and close at 12 noon on September 22nd, 2025. Candidates must all provide a $100 deposit, as well as meet the eligibility requirements under the Local Authorities Election Act. Voting method: in compliance with all legislative updates, all of our voting and ballot countings will be conducted using paper ballots. Automated vote counting systems, including electronic tabulators, will not be permitted, and we will be doing manual counting with humans. So the election day and advanced voting. So the 2025 general election is scheduled for October 20th, with voting from 11 a.m. Up to 8 p.m. Advanced voting opportunities will be provided and publicly advertised as required. Campaign finance and third-party advertising. So candidates as well as third-party advertisers must comply with strict financial contribution limits, disclosure requirements, and reporting deadlines to ensure transparency. Special ballots will be available for voters who are unable to attend voting stations due to absence or incapacity, ensuring accessibility for all eligible electors. So the returning officer has been appointed by the Chief Administrative Officer as the Director of Corporate Services, which is myself, and will oversee the election process, appoint all necessary election staff, and ensure compliance with the Election Act and this bylaw. Voter eligibility and identifications. So electors must meet age, citizenship, and residency requirements, as well as provide valid identification as specified by this bylaw, as well as the Election Act. Ballot handing and vote counting. All ballots will be securely managed, with vote counting conducted manually, and official results will be declared no later than October 24th, 2025. So I believe that's the Friday, if I'm not mistaken. With recounts will be handled as per the Local Authorities Election Act. Scrutineers may observe election processes, but must adhere to strict guidelines to prevent interference or campaigning within voting stations. And then this bylaw does have an expiration date, so the bylaw will remain in effect until December 31st, 2025, or until all election-related activities will be concluded. The Town of Innisfil has allocated $60,000 in the 2025 budget to cover all election-related costs. Additionally, administration will be implementing a system to track hours spent on election duties, ensuring transparency, accountability, and effective resource management. And then under Alberta's Election Act, as well as the MGA, election ads must follow strict timelines, sponsor identification rules, and spending limits. These regulations will ensure transparency, fairness, and accountability during the elections. So I'll take any questions that council may have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. I ask someone to please give first reading on this bylaw. Councillor Dunham.
Sorry, Mayor Barkley, I move the council accepts and gives 1727-2024, 2025 general election bylaw first reading.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Mayor Barkley and through to Director Vickers. In our previous bylaw from previous elections, was it always written that official results would take till the end, like 4 days after the election, and is that common that we would wait that long? Or
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Wing. So we would have in the past done it immediately preceding the election as soon as we had the results, but it's written in the Election Act that we have till the 25th, that Friday.
okay, but the change, I guess my point is, or my question is, the change from using a machine to manually counting isn't going to cause us a 4-day delay in having a result.
No, but it will cause a delay, absolutely. Instead of having a half-hour or an hour response to the results, likely will be a day or 2 days after the election when we'll have the results. It all depends on how long it will take us to count those ballots.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, Your Worship, to Director Vickers. Are we confident with that $60,000 number, or should that be higher depending on number of candidates and and time. That's what I'm thinking of. Like, the tabulators are great. This has thrown a real curveball to many municipalities across the province. So that's my question.
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Hysted. Well, it is just an estimate at this time. We are kind of estimating on a standard number of councillors that we've seen traditionally in the past number of elections. If we did have an election year where we had 30 councillors trying to run, that could increase that cost just because we would have more ballots, more counting. But we would come to council at that time that we know that there's something off, and we would ask for a budget adjustment at that time, which likely wouldn't be till the end of nomination day, which would be September 22nd.
Okay, Director Vickers. So with the registry, how does that work?
So the elector registry, Mayor Barkley, will be provided to us by Elections Alberta on 2 different occasions. So the first occasion, they'll send it to us roughly, I believe, in May. We make any updates we need to make. We will send that list back to them, and they will send us back the list in about August. We have worked with a company that we will have an electronic system so that we can manage the elector list better. Once the election happens, we will then send that elector list back to the government with all of the updates as well as who voted and who didn't vote, and that will get sent back to the provincial government.
So I'm curious how the list is compiled. Like,
So-
where do they get the information from? And
So it's like it comes from if you've previously registered to vote in a provincial or federal election, as well as they would take any of like your tax information, right? If you're a taxpayer in Alberta, you're going to be on the list somewhere.
somewhere, okay. And the software again is how much?
Excuse me, it's about $5,000.
Okay,
We've had a
right.
quote, I think it's
Yeah.
exactly $5,000.
Okay, okay, no, good, thanks. Any other questions? Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Vickers. What do we end up doing with our electronic tabulators? Do we own those, or is that something that we rent?
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Mazzaro. So those tabulators are rented from a company. The last couple of years was X votes or something like that. So we just rent them. They come, they bring them here, they stay with us through the whole system, and then they take them back with them when the election's over.
Okay, thank you. And one more question, Mayor Barkley, through to Director Vickers, and it has to do with the registry. Is that aspect to this bylaw, does that have the potential to deny anyone the opportunity to vote that may have been able to vote before?
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Mazzaro. So in order for anyone to vote in Innisfail, they just have to provide us with the right kind of identification that they have a residence in Innisfail. That can be a lease agreement, a utility bill, a number of things that has their name and address on it. If you come and you're not registered to vote in Innisfail and you're not on the list, but you provide us that information, we add you to the list at that moment. So it's not a barrier. They still will have to comply with the address requirements like normal elections in past. It just might take a few extra minutes for that person to now vote, because now we have to go through, fill out a form, they have to sign it, we have to add them to the register, and then we can let them vote.
Councillor Bates?
Oh, just pivoting off of that, I assume there's still the provision too that somebody can swear for you that you are a resident and
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates. I'll have to double check on that. I haven't seen that specific.
yeah.
I think that's
we're
been
getting into that.
I think that's been eliminated.
Yeah. And I doubt we'll get, it's hard to imagine, like, I guess the number of candidates could complicate it, but it's not going to make more ballots. It's just going to be,
The ballot will be longer.
yeah, a longer ballot. You just have to,
Okay.
when you're counting number 3 instead of number 90.
Okay, so we have first reading. All in favor of first reading? Carried. And please have somebody make the second motion. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Excuse me, I move that council accepts and gives 1727-2024-2025 general election bylaw second reading.
Okay, any further questions? All in favor? Okay, carried. And then consideration for third.
I'll move that we give consideration for 1727, 2024, 2025 general election bylaw third reading.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then the final reading. Councillor Wing?
Mayor Barclay, I move that council accepts and gives 1727-2024, the 2025 general election bylaw, third and final reading.
Perfect, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried, thank you. All right, we'll move on to 6.3 with Director Vickers.
Okay, so this report is to present the 2025 operating and capital budgets for council's review and approval. So council had held 2025 budget deliberations on November 19th, 20th, and 22nd, held in council chambers. These sessions were advertised to the public and was also available to attend in person, and recordings for sessions are available online for viewing. The deliberations began with a review of the town's vision, mission, values, as well as the 4 pillars of the strategic plan. Administration did use the following budget objectives. They were developed during our 2024 budget, and we used them as well as through the development of our 2025 budget as well. So the first one was to advance council's strategic priorities, specifically ensuring housing diversity, meeting recreational needs, sustainable asset management, and growing the energy hub. We also aim to provide high-quality municipal services valued by residents, maintain competitive property taxes, and as well to protect the organizational health. So the current budget breakdown is as follows. So our 2025 revenue is sitting at $28,507,772. And as you can see, the 2025 expenses are $28,532,772. So we do need to cut expenses by $25,000. Our contingency must maintain a balance of $0 as per our budget policy that recently has been passed. The dollars needed to balance the budget were $395,629. Our capital budget is sitting at $21,249,219, and our projected reserve ending balance of $15,887,428. So on December 2nd, 2024, administration did bring back the budget for council just to kind of re-review prior to formal approval. At that meeting, a motion was made that administration be directed to reduce the operating budget by $25,000 rather than imposing an ATCO Gas franchise fee. So administration did go back and identified some potential areas for budget reductions. The following areas have been identified. So those are the areas to go over. We're offering tree planting in the amount of $25,000 could be cut. Scholarships could be cut by $5,000. The staff Christmas party could be cut for $5,000. Doctors' baskets. So this is an area where we've purchased baskets for new and incoming doctors. That can be cut by $2,000. The fireworks could be cut, saving $10,000. The placemaking operating projects, so that was to do with the downtown lot as well as public art, could be cut for $20,000, as well as potentially going down to a half page of the town voice for $20,000. Administration is requesting council's direction on which items to cut from the 2025 budget to achieve the necessary reductions. Each option does carry different public and operational impacts, and council's input will help ensure adjustments align with town's priorities. So the $1,900, and the Fortis franchise fee is 1%, and that will generate $110,729. So the dollars needed breakdown is the Aquatic Center is seeing $189,000 of that. The reserve investment is seeing $200,000, and the operational increase needed to balance the budget was $6,230. So as you can see in the 2025 tax increase, $189,000 is earmarked for building debt capacity to support the future loan payment for the new Aquatic Center. This approach started in 2023 and has gradually expanded the budget's capacity to accommodate an annual loan payment of $910,000 by 2028. The reserve contribution for 2025 has been increased by $200,000. This investment aligns with the strategic approach detailed in the State of Infrastructure report to ensure consistent and predictable funding for future capital expenditures that have been identified in the current 10-year capital plan and is supported by the reserves policy. By adhering to this contribution level, the town is demonstrating its commitment to maintaining the financial health of its reserves and supporting the objectives of the capital plan. The 2025 estimated tax assessments for the town have a projected total assessment of just over $1.3 billion, which is a total increase of 6.716%. So what this means is a tax requirement of $10,387,737 is needed to be generated by municipal taxes to hit our budget targets for 2025. So if, when we get our final assessments in early 2025, this number is different, there is a few options available to council. So the first one would be that the mill rate can be adjusted up or down so that the net effect on property owners is what it is identified in this budget. If we are seeing a little bit of a higher tax revenue, we could add some projects back in that were cut during budget deliberations, or some kind of combination of both of those options. So administration will bring the 2025 mill rates to council for approval in early 2025. That should be kind of in mid-April sometime, sorry. The provincial government is expected to pass its budget in the spring, at which time the education requisitions are known. At that time, council will set the mill rates based on actual assessments received by our assessors, and then combined tax and assessment notices will be mailed out by the end of April. Franchise fees are payments made by utility companies for rights to utility distribution services within our municipality. Utility companies then raise those funds to cover the cost of those fees by charging their customers within that municipality. Funds collected through franchise fees do help municipal operating budgets. So ATCO Gas is sitting at 27%. There were many discussions with council if the ATCO Gas franchise fee should be raised to 28%. As per the motion made on December 2nd, no increase has been made to ATCO Gas at this time. However, further work will be undertaken prior to budget 2026 to identify if increases are warranted. Fortis is currently sitting at 17% with an increase of 1% being incorporated into the budget. This will generate an extra $110,000 of revenue for 2025. And we have identified 5 years of franchise history, budget versus collected for both Fortis and ATCO. Now in 2024, we don't have a full complete year yet, so we did look at our current requisition that we received for the year and kind of estimated what that final month in December we will receive, just to see what we kind of estimate to receive by the end of the year. So the budget is currently incorporating the following rate changes in utility user fees. So water is going up to $3.26, which is an increase of 25 cents per cubic meter. And wastewater is initially, back on November 3rd, we did receive a letter from them to the CAO, Todd Becker, that they were proposing a rate of $2.77. However, they did finalize their budget last Friday, and they did come back at a rate of $2.78. So they have increased by 1 cent. This does cause an increase by $8,882 for the town. So this increase will have minimal impact on the town's budget, and at this time doesn't require any changes to the proposed budget. The finalized rate is marginally manageable, within the current budget framework. And to offset the increased SRD costs, the town will slightly reduce the planned transfer to reserves at the end of 2025 if needed. This will ensure that all operating costs are covered without affecting service levels or requiring changes to rates. However, there is an option we can consider that would be increasing the consumption rate by 1 cent from $4.31 to $4.32. This adjustment would generate an additional $6,563 in revenue, which would offset that $8,800 almost 100%. Based on the current dollars, a monthly utility bill will see an increase of $5.60, so that is based on 10 cubes of water consumption. And then all other flat charges for water, wastewater, storm, and garbage will stay the same for 2025. So the average Innisfil resident will see a monthly increase of approximately $30.18, and we base that on the following data. So the utility bill is based on 10 cubic meters per month, a property value of $400,000 assessed value, 6.7% assessment growth, a 2.82 tax rate increase, and a 1% Fortis franchise fee increase. And you can see the breakdown from 24 to 25, and we can see that monthly difference in total of $30.18. The 2025 budget does include a 2% cost of living increase for staff, ensuring their compensation aligns with inflationary trends. Additionally, merit increases may be awarded upon completion of performance reviews, recognizing and rewarding individual achievements. The budget does incorporate 4 new full-time equivalent, or FTEs. Of these, 1 FTE was hired in 2024 and is finally just being accounted for in the budget for the first time. Another FTE is transitioning from part-time to full-time status, but 2 completely new FTE positions are being added for 2025. These staffing adjustments reflect the organization's commitment to supporting its workforce while addressing operational growth and service delivery needs. We did see some significant increases to our operational areas for 2025, and those are kind of listed right there. We do see increased energy costs of $75,000, increased utility costs of $21,000, our increased insurance of $30,000. We will receive the, LGFF operating grant to help cover the costs of the historical village. They receive $23,000, and the Pace Bus program do receive $42,000 from that operating grant each year. The 2025 capital budget was reviewed during budget deliberations, and the final list is attached to this report. The total capital budget is $24,249,000, and capital projects are funded primarily by provincial and federal grants, debenture, and reserves. So we do have the funding broken down as follows. So we do have $10 million coming from debenture or other. We do have those grants listed out, and 2.7 coming from reserves. The 2025 reserves show budgeted additions from the operating budget of $2,487,000 and a withdrawal of $2,832,000. This will leave a balance of $15,887,000. So a press release will be issued following the budget approval for public viewing, likely sometime tomorrow. Information will also be shared with residents through the Town Voice and utility inserts.
All right.
We'll take your questions, please.
Okay, well, comments? Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and through to Director Vickers. I have other thoughts that I want to talk about it in a bit, but if you go to page 4, perfect. And keep going down, Juanita, please. Okay, so the average Innisfil resident will see a monthly increase there, and then underneath we talk about, so this number shows that we've agreed to a 2.82% tax rate increase, but it does not reflect an increase in the ATCO franchise fee.
Mayor Barclay, through to Councillor Wing. So based on the motion that was made last week, it was made that we were to reduce the expenses by $25,000 in lieu of an ATCO gas franchise fee increase. So we have not incorporated the ATCO gas franchise fee increase in the proposed budget as it sits today.
Okay, so then I just have actually go, just back up, scroll up a little bit there, no, back down. Sorry, it's the top of page 4. So I had asked for more information about our franchise fee history, because I noted just as I was peeking at audited financial statements and our franchise fees are in another in a category with others, I was curious about what we budget and what we actually realize. And so I'm curious as to, so from 2020 to 2023, we did not collect, we were $100,000 short on our franchise fees. Yet this year, we're anticipating that we're going to be $90,000 to the good on our Fortis fee. So I'm curious about that. It's like we've been short on our franchise fees, realized franchise fees. Now we're expecting to be over, and I'm wondering how predictable are franchise fees from a budget perspective.
Mayor Barclay, through to Councillor Wing. They are rather predictable to a percentage. We know that we can identify or guarantee on the brunt of that money. It is, however, an estimate based on usage of the electricity or gas. So it's not just, we're not guaranteed the same amount of dollars every month. If we do have a higher or lower year, which we did have for ATCO Gas in 2023, ATCO Gas formalized and sent us a letter saying that they recalculated and the transmission costs are coming in way lower than expected, and they did send us an update of what our updated budget amount was. So that is really what the way we have to rely on that, right? It is just an estimate. It is solely based on that transmission costs and what that is.
Your Worship. If I remember rightly, probably the 2022 deficiency, I think, was a communication situation, if I remember right, and the franchise fee wasn't being charged for a considerable portion of the year. That deficit on the, I think it's Fortis, of a couple $100,000 there was. That's what I remember. I think everybody, it's just like our water and our sewer, as it goes up, we all try to use less too. So I'm sure there's that impact. Yeah.
Weather's going to have a big impact as well, and, yeah, so, I don't know, personally, I'm not interested in cutting. And I'm still going to swing the bat on an ATCO fee of 1%. I can tell you my bill last month, an ATCO fee increase of 3% would have added $1 to my bill. So, I don't know, we see water going up, whatever it is, 8.7%. We see wastewater going up 7.6%, I think. We see assessment growth and taxes going up almost 10%. So I don't quite understand the pushback against the ATCO of 1% and adjusting the tax a little bit. But that's just me, and I think I made that clear last week. So,
Well, I probably pushed back as hard as anybody. Yeah, just the way this evolved, we disappeared a portion of the tax that would have made up that. And I know the motion was made to show what you could cut that wouldn't result in the ATCO. And that was made, I think, because the ATCO wasn't in the original November 22nd, which the Fortis was. When I look at the whole thing now in a big picture, I wanted to congratulate you on producing a whole bunch of cuts that probably nobody wants to do. But when I look at the whole thing in a big picture, down the road, it concerns me more about the Fortis, even, to be honest with you. Having thought this over for a week and looking at $25,000, and it's not the end of the world. We almost spent 2/3 of that half an hour ago. And yeah, I don't get hung up on the 25. Now that I got my mic on, I guess I put most of my stuff out last week, and so if anybody wants to watch the recording, I'm sure in an hour they can get it. But I still am concerned going forward. So if we get past this, so I don't confuse my concerns and hold this up, I'm still concerned on the long run about what these do to business and industrial. I think there's some businesses probably it doesn't affect any more than the residential. I think there's others that it whacks hard. But I don't have those facts. I can't get them. I would hope that next year we will get the percentage of franchise fees payers that are and are not taxpayers. And yeah, I pulled out of Alberta this week another fact that has nothing to do with our community, but it's shocking. When Sundial went down in Olds, they lost $450,000 in property taxes and $300,000 in franchise fee. And so you add those two together and you say, oh, cow, that's $750,000. They got to find that in their budget because that industry went down. And it went down for whatever reasons. Maybe it should have never been there to start with. And over and above that, they would have water and sewer shortfalls. But if you just look at the shocking fact that industry was facing 2/3 of its taxes as franchise fees. That's huge. Like mine are nothing. Those are facts I have. I have my own. They're a fraction. So where I'm going with this going forward, I'm not going to get hung up on this today, but I would tell people I would intend to introduce a notion of motion next year to have our ECDEV officer and our ECDEV committee try and dig into the potential impacts on various level of industry and business so that council next fall is equipped to in my opinion, make decisions that include some of those businesses and industries that could scarily be impacted. And I do think we have to consider Red Deer County when we look at our competitors. I happened to connect with a developer board member in the last week who indicated to me that there are companies out there now that'll give you 20 factors about a municipality when you consider locating there. And they're everything from, how forward-thinking they are to all of these costs. And so I think in the future is what I'm more concerned about than what I'm looking at here today. I can swallow the ATCO, I guess, in the short. No, it's just another bill. It's just another tax, and that's the way I look at it. I mean, yeah, I think I've said a lot. And if anybody else wants more detail, go to last week's recording.
Anybody else? Oh, Councillor Heisted.
Thanks, Your Worship. I turned it off. Some of you might, yeah. No, I was ready last week. I think it was 3.06, right? We were at or having a decrease in our taxes as well as the franchise fees, and I was totally fine with that. And that's where, where I was pushing back, and I'll be honest, that's where I was at. I thought that Councillor Bates, his description and how well prepared he was last week in presenting it was very convincing to me. And so that's how I felt last week. As to the 25,000, who would want to be the guy that whacks the fireworks or the Christmas party or any of those stuff? We don't want to be doing that unless, somebody does, but it doesn't look too good. Yeah, Merry Christmas. And then what? No party next year. But, that's how I was looking at it last week. I think that, Councillor Wings brought up some really good, information and discussion on the budgeted number and what is collected. I think these are, for myself, being at this table for a while, you're always learning about the budget and how it evolves. But I would agree with Councillor Bates on working with the ECDEV and having a better understanding of where those dollars are coming on at the industrial level. Because we could go through this and keep on looking at students and other things, but I don't want to be that guy today. I just want to. I think if we can get here, I think we can land here. In my opinion, and as to being the 3.06 guy, that's where I was at last week, and that's why I did push back, and I just wanted all of you to know why. Thanks, Your Worship. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, maybe I didn't express it fully, but yeah, either one, the 3 tax or the ACO, to me, it's very, very counting grains of sand.
No, it is very, and I agree with that. I would just say, business owner, as I said last week, I did talk to, their assessment and taxes have gone up 27% in 3 years. And they would very much like to have a combination of franchise fees and tax increases, because it's a lot, needless to say, and it's about spreading that budget to places that are still getting police and fire and sidewalks and roads and all that kind of stuff, but they're exempt from paying property taxes. So I just feel it's a bit more equitable. Sorry, Councillor Donovich, if you're.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And I just wanted to say to Councillor Bates, I admire so much the thought and the depth and granular level that you go into with thinking about these things and how forward-thinking you are on them. And although at times we may not look at it from the same way, I think that we can land on what the best interest of the community is. And I had spoke out last week and in previous meetings around the fact is that there are those exempt businesses. And as a former business owner, looking at what the tax increase would have done as opposed to the franchise fee, I would prefer, or in that position when I was a business owner, to see that it would affect and have equity amongst all those other businesses as well. And I mean, I understand as well that, you know, potentially for like the top 5% of the industrial businesses out there that are really high consumers, these franchise fees are going to be higher. But until we have that data to really understand the difference between what the tax increase is and what the franchise fee increase would be, I'm more comfortable going the direction of the franchise fee. But previous to this as well, I was comfortable with the 3+ without moving to the franchise fee. So I mean, we're all kind of chatting here, and I think maybe we need to kind of figure out where we're at, but because I kind of feel like we're still all over the place as to where we are all going to land on this. So yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit more personally.
Councillor Maceros?
Sure, I can weigh in. To Councillor Bates, I think that's a great idea to collect some data on how these rates and from which places, how it affects our industry in Innisfail. I am also of the mind that in terms of collecting franchise fees, that it's a more equitable distribution of taxes. That's where my that's my opinion, and but in terms of what we have to choose from today, can I just clarify what that is? So it's either we cut from the list that you gave us and go with the just 2.82% tax rate increase, or we choose to go with the 3.06% tax increase, or we choose to go with this plus the 1% ATCO. Okay.
That's exactly right. Those are the three options right now.
Okay.
And, sorry, Mayor Barclay through to Councillor Maceros, you can choose to cut anything. This is just the list that we said we would still be able to operate all of our operational needs by cutting one of these options. But we can go back in and look at anything. That would be up to your guys' option.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion? Pick one? Let's make a motion. Let's move on. Councillor Maceros.
Okay, I'll try and make a motion here. I move that we do not go towards cutting any of the services that you've provided, that we choose the 2.82% tax rate increase plus the 1% ATCO tax rate increase.
Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, Your Worship, what I would add is that discussion that Councillor Bates had added in there as on a move forward basis. Am I correct? That would be part of that.
Mayor Barclay, I don't believe that would need to be in the motion. We'll
No, it
take
wouldn't be in the
those
motion,
words.
but it's a recommendation from this body, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can live with that, Your Worship. That's where I was coming from.
Okay, no, thank you. Councillor Bates.
No, I would fully do that next year. The proposal that we set ourselves up for more information for the future. And, yeah. I will point out one last time, 1 point isn't 1%.
No, I know that.
And
It's about 3.6.
that again, and it's dripped up, and then at some point, you have somebody that looks at it, and it won't be just our biggest industry or whatever. It'll be some business in town here too that has a big utility bill compared to somebody else. And that's my argument. I'm okay with the motion.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so we have a motion. All in favor? Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, carried. Okay, so we'll move on to 6.4 with rates and fees bylaw with Director Vickers.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barclay. So I do have our most recent amendment to our rates and fees bylaw with bylaw 1730-2024 for council's review and approval today. So the Municipal Government Act allows council to pass bylaws regarding services provided by the town of Innisfail, which includes the fees charged providing those services. So the town has consolidated the fees it charges for providing goods and services into a consolidated rates and fees bylaw. So this bylaw does get reviewed and updated multiple times a year, and this is our annual budget update report. So we are adding some cemetery services fees. So we do have our annual rate adjustment. So cemetery service rates are adjusted annually to account for changes in operational costs and economic conditions. One of the big changes we did do for this is we did do detailed out winter and winter after hours rates. So the bylaw previously read it was a calculation of the after hours rates to determine what the winter rate was, which sometimes created disagreements in cost if different people were doing different calculations. So we chose to just hardline those different projects in there so that there was no confusion and it streamlined the same for everyone, as well as disinterment charges. So any fees associated with disinterment have now been clearly outlined under each relevant opening and closing category. In the past, they were not identified in the bylaw at all. So utility services, we do have to update our water and wastewater rate increases, with water going from 3.01 to 3.26 and wastewater increasing from $4 to $4.31. And that is based on the budget that was just passed. Bylaw 1728-2024, the fire services bylaw, did incorporate a revised fee structure to reflect the costs associated with providing essential services such as fire suppression, rescue operations, and hazardous material response. So these charges outlined in the attached rates and fees bylaw ensure equitable cost recovery and encourage compliance by addressing repeat false alarms and other chargeable incidences. And we did just do some updates to the Library Learning Center under the Recreation, Parks, and Cultural Services heading. So we did want to focus on addressing inconsistencies and ensuring local alignment between hourly and daily rates. So we did see in the past that an hourly rate was $100 and then the day rate was not conducive to an 8-hour rate for that charge. So we did just want to streamline that. And by correcting discrepancies in the relationship between these rates, the changes promote a more equitable and transparent pricing structure. The adjustments also eliminate any ambiguities, making it easier for users to understand and compare costs. So the revision ensures fairness for all user groups and reflects clear proportionality in pricing. So the only caveat on this is the water and wastewater rates, as well as the updated cemetery charges, will take effect on January 1st, 2025. However, the fire services and the recreation, parks, and culture will take effect upon passing of this bylaw. So I'll take any questions that council may have.
All right, thank you, Director Vickers. Could I please have someone make the motion for first reading on the rates and fees? Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I move the council accepts and gives 1730-2024 rates and fees bylaw first reading.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? No? All in favor? Okay, carried. Second reading, please. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'll move that council accepts and gives 1730-2024 rates and fees bylaw second reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried unanimously, and we'll move to consideration for third reading, please. Councillor Bates.
I'll move that we give consideration for 1730-2024 rates and fees bylaw third reading.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, and then third and final reading.
That council accepts and gives number 1730-2024 rates and fees bylaw third and final reading.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hystad. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, we'll move into correspondence. I'll just have a motion, please, that we accept the correspondence as information.
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barclay.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll move into council reports, and we'll begin today with Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just a short report. My fellow councillors have these items covered in their reports. So I attended MPC, Community Economic Development, and thank you to the town of Innisfil for the Christmas staff party.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bates?
Yeah, so I had verbalized last week what I did the first week of this report, and I did get my report in on Thursday, but it was about 11 o'clock at night. So it was late. It was late again. The Alberta Environment Open House that I went to, there were, it was like a drop-in with various government employees there to answer questions or interface with you. All aspects of water use, conservation, storage, as related to the surveys that they have opened up. And I did want to acknowledge, because he doesn't get roundtable, that Director Stephen was there, and my backup from the Water Commission, Councillor Wing, was there too, I guess just as a general information. I would encourage everyone to still do these surveys. They're open until, I believe, January 10th, and it'll give you the total flavor about all the things they're looking at, and you're seeing stuff in the news right now, like they're looking at storage now. I think I saw an article today, potentially 100 locations in Alberta, the potential storage, and one of them, of course, is the big Ardley east of Red Deer that Muggs is promoting. But if you do the surveys, you'll get all aspects of water, and use the little comment sections, even if use them to express your opinions. That's my advice. The other thing I did was the Central Alberta Regional Waste Commission, and it's sort of out of sight, out of mind, and it's worth just updating a couple of things for people that might have forgotten. So that little landfill was opened in 1999, and it ran till 2003, 4 years. And it was used by Innisfail, Bowden, Red Deer County, Penhold, Delburn, and Elnora. And the commission is alive purely to monitor that landfill as required by the Department of the Environment. And we're working towards a 25-year target right now. The closure plan was developed in 2004, and I think started in 2005. The license renewal was granted in 2018 to 2028, and it will need another 2-year renewal to get to the 2030 25-year monitoring, and then we can all hope that it's done. Whether or not it gets done will determine whether or not, I guess, whether or not the monitoring continues to be clean and something else doesn't pop up. We did experience a significant increase in our little budget, mainly due to a huge increase in the audit cost. And it's very frustrating because the audit cost is very large for a very, very simple, small budget and or slash the amount of complexity of it is so small. But commissions are required to have this specific audit, and nobody wants to do audits anymore. And what happened was the one that had been doing it forever, they quit doing audits. And yeah, so we're going to have a big increase there.
Councillor
now-
Bates, can I ask you, is there a huge increase in insurance, or not so much?
No, because I don't think we hardly do anything. I didn't see that on a line item at all. It was the audit. And the audit went up about 100 and some percent, because the old one was just somebody who was used to doing it, and they just recrunched the numbers and certified them, and everything was great. We had RFQ'd it and got one response. And the fear was, if we tried to do it again, the one that did it might go higher. So at any rate, there'll be a bit of an increase to us. It's from 8-odd thousand to 10-odd. And just a real quick, and then I'm done. Innisfail's assessed 24% of it. And this is based on the usage, I believe, of the landfill. Innisfail and Red Deer County are the biggies. Red Deer County 61.2, Bowden's 4.2, Penhold 6.5, Delburn 2.5, and Elnora 1.3. And yeah, it's such a small commission. Red Deer County lets us use their facilities. They use their personnel. They have a $500 line item in there for their personnel, and they've never even exercised to charge it. And it's so small, and that's one of the reasons why I don't even have a backup anymore on the commission. Oh, I got designated to be vice chair, which means I would chair one, if the chair couldn't, I would be chairing one meeting in the spring, because by fall, we'll have a new council and whatever. So that's the whole of that. If you ever get asked to be on it, it's very small, very simple. It'll run for another 2030 at least. And yet, if it isn't done right, it could have ramifications. And some of my understanding now is it was a lot of not in my backyard people that got it closed. And then that forced this level of inspection. Anyway, thank you.
Congratulations on your vice presidency.
Oh,
Councillor Hystad, next.
Councillor DePalm from Red Deer County is the chair, just.
Well, Your Worship, I can't top that report tonight. Actually, that was a killer report, Councillor Bates. Mine is pretty lame. All I wanted to say is this past weekend was, we had hometown Christmas. There was a lot of really positive things in our community. I wish some of you stayed a little longer for the Christmas party because I got a few hugs, especially from CAO Sympathy. Oh, Councillor Wing. And I think my takeaway, just trying to be positive on the weekend, was we had one staff member that came up to me, and I won't name names, but they talking to me. No, it was a really positive conversation on how well our administration looked after the individual in a certain time in their lives, and I think that bodes well on our administration and our culture that we have at council. So I think that was my takeaway on Saturday night. It was really positive. So, and yeah, Councillor Bates, you beat me. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Wing.
Thank you. Yes, I did attend the Environment Water Open House at the Hall of Fame last week. It was interesting to see, one department kill an entire forest so they could have printed their entire website for everyone in the city to have come. But all of the handouts were interesting, and there's certainly lots, of course, to be considered in talking about our water situation. Everything from interbasin transfers to conservation to storage. So it's complex, and it was interesting to meet some of the people face to face. I will attend the Mountain View Regional Water meeting this week, but as I thought about going into the new year, I started attending those meetings earlier this year because we had formed the drought committee and I was a part of that. I don't need to be going just as the alternate, so I won't resume that work until maybe in the spring if they restart that drought planning work. We'll be waiting on the province around that, I think. And then this week, also the Parkland Library Executive meets on Thursday.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. My report is there. I did want to touch on the Parkland Foundation meeting that we had. We will be seeing an increase to our requisition. Originally, they proposed a $100,000 increase from 250 to, or yes, 250 to 350, but there was no appetite around the board to make that kind of increase. And one of the main reasons is, as we all know, is it's building that reserve. We don't have a very large reserve, and the facilities, some of them are aging, so we needed to do something, but, for example, I mean, Red Deer County, which makes up 78.5% of that, would have seen over $100,000 increase, or just about, well, they make up 78%, we make up 13%, then it trickles down from there, but there's, yeah, very substantial. So we originally were supposed to see a 14, we're down to a $4,400 increase. Just let everybody know, same thing with their staff increase, 2% for COLA, and yeah, we're just working towards establishing a small operational reserve for the future. So if anyone has any other questions, I do have more information, but that's the basis for that.
Oh, great, thank you. And
Can I just
the-
ask
the
who-
reason they are 78% is because it's per cap.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they pay the
Yeah.
same that we do.
Right. And did you elect a chair and vice chair? And
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So, just going to add some stuff to South Red Deer Regional Wastewater. So we had an organizational meeting on Friday. Reeve, Angela Albers, and Councillor Muller from Penholder, they will continue as chair and vice chair. They're absolutely awesome. Operations, Waskasiu Lift Station 1 and 3 wet wells are not well. Each of these units apparently are approximately 40 years old, so they've been added to the capital budget for expense of $50,000 to repair. End of October, Innisfail's volumes for wastewater are sitting at 699,659 cubes. That's 3.8% below budget. The odor management chemicals are sitting at 936,946, and the budget amount for 2024 is 825. So as low flow rates go, chemical costs go higher. The City of Red Deer treatment costs for SRD are increasing 6% to $1.38 per cube. The Innisfail Emergency Storage Pond budget is projected to be $1.568 million. Approval from Alberta Transportation has been provided to move $500,000 in grant dollars from Olds to Innisfail, and there's likely potential for some further movement if needed once the tenders come in. That RFP is out. I believe it closes on December the 20th, and I think maybe Michael said there's been 7 responses so far, so that's good to hear. Then November 18th, the Alberta Water Forum that I mentioned before was held in Edmonton. Representatives from 24 commissions attended, and Minister Dreeshen and Minister McIver were there for an hour, but their staff from Alberta Transportation, Municipal Affairs, Environment and Protected Areas, and Agriculture were in attendance all day. SRD presented the first agenda item, which was operational models and rate recovery strategies. Ace Water Corporation presented on hub facilities and water treatment challenges. Colt Lake Regional Water and Wastewater Commission presented on long-term sustainability and financial planning. And Aqua 7 presented on water supply, droughts, emergency, and licenses. So the purpose behind this water forum, and I believe it will continue, is really to try to work with the province and advocacy efforts to try and get maybe some more equitable rates throughout the province. Apparently there was one community, they're paying like 69 cents per cube of water, and somebody else in the room was paying $10. So the rates are all over the map, and depending, of course, on where you live. And then we had a CAPE meeting last Thursday, so some new people on the board. We have Chad Cran from the City of Red Deer, Teresa Rilling from the Town of Sylvan Lake, Connie Anderson from Sundre, Jordan Northcott from Clearwater. We have 2 business reps now from Nehill County and Clearwater County. Our associate member from RDP, Ben Allen, who's a business development director, has joined us, and First Nations is still represented by Leonard Standing on the road. Jennifer Hardig and Nicole Lorraine, they gave presentations. So Jennifer, of course, is our Regional Economic Development Specialist, and Nicole is the Workforce Consultant with JET, Jobs, Economy and Trade from the Government of Alberta. So they presented on their roles and the support they provide us. CAPE has also applied for 2 grants, an EdRent grant to support the SiteLink conference in 2025, and then a small community opportunity program grant to support an agribusiness asset inventory for some smaller counties. And I just want to commend everybody the last couple of weeks for just great discussion at the council table here around budget and so many other things. You think some things are going to go by pretty quick, and even the RDP discussion, I thought, well, that's kind of going to be a quick thing, and it wasn't. So I really commend everybody for speaking up and saying what's on your mind. That's our job, and that's what we should be doing. So it's fantastic. And also to the town, whoever put the Christmas party together on Saturday night, thank you so much. It was so much fun. And even if I would have stayed, I probably still wouldn't have got any hugs. But that's a whole other story. But, I know, yeah, well, Jason's so lovable, that's why. But it was a lot of fun, and you just see such a great culture in that room. And I was also out and about Innisfail on Saturday at Hometown Christmas and the markets and everything, and so many great comments about the town and everything that's going well. So thanks to administration for all the great work you do, and to council as well. So we'll move into upcoming events. Oh, hang on, we're not going to upcoming events. We're going to the open mic session because we have Patrick Teskey here that wants to say a few words. I just went right by you and forgot about you sitting out there. Welcome, Patrick. Thanks for sitting through all that.
As was mentioned, my name is Patrick Teskey. I'm actually here today as the Director of Public Relations and Fundraising for the Innisfail Minor Lacrosse Association, the Innisfail Phantoms. The upcoming season is actually going to be the association's 25th, so we're already well underway in terms of planning for the upcoming season, and one of the first events we have upcoming is our annual Try It Night. It will be happening on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 at the St. Marguerite Bourgeois Catholic School Gymnasium. And I am here today to officially invite your worship, council, administration, anyone who wants to attend, to come out and join us on the 25th to try the sport that is known as the fastest sport on 2 feet. The event runs from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. And because it is our 25th anniversary, we actually have some special guests attending. We have 2 members of the Calgary Roughnecks National Lacrosse League team coming, and potentially their mascot, Howie the Honey Badger.
Awesome.
So I'm just throwing out the invitation. If you'd like more information, I can actually get that to you as well. But we're going to do 2 Try It Nights this year. This is our first one, and we'll be hosting one probably sometime in February as well. So
We would love to come, but you may change that from the fastest game on 2 feet to not so much, because some of us did go try disc golf, and that wasn't very pretty either. But as long as we don't have to wear any equipment, right? We can just go like with the
we
hair
will
the way
have
it is
sticks.
and-
The only thing we'll ask is, because of the fact it is in the gymnasium, that you bring a pair of running shoes with you, so
Okay,
you can
but we don't have to
change
wear-
your footwear at the
We don't
front
have to
door.
wear helmets or anything like that, do we? Perfect.
I think I can get you out of that one.
Okay.
And I would even offer Councillor Hystad a hug if he does show up.
Okay, sweet. Get Howie to hug him. Oh, thank you very much, Patrick. It sounds like fun, and I'm sure some of us will be there, so. Okay. January 15th. Okay, now we'll go to upcoming events and just have a motion to accept these as information. Are we missing something? Are we missing Councillor Wing? You said library this week, did you?
That's
Parkland this week.
Parkland Executive Committee.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, we're good. Okay, so a motion to accept the events as information. Councillor
I'll make
Hystad?
that work. Your worship, I'll make that motion. Thanks.
Awesome. All in favor? Carried. And we'll have a motion to go in camera. Councillor Bates.
So would we do it after, or are we looking at that next council meeting that you were holding off depending on what we did with budget?
Now or offers.
Yeah, we can do it now if you want. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just asking.
No, go ahead, sure. Make a motion to cancel the meeting.
I'll move that we cancel the council meeting on the 23rd of, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not in front of me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Memory? Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. And now we'll go in camera. Motion to go in camera. Did you do that?
What, you
Thanks.
want another motion?
Yeah, I do.
I'll move, we move in camera.
Thanks. All in favor? Oh,